Howdy from Houston, Texas. I know, right? Perfect timing. It's actually totally in keeping with this entire summer. When my brother and I left Oregon, the Umpqua National Forest was totally on fire. So to arrive in Texas and find that it's one of the biggest natural disasters in a really long time is not that surprising. I'm not even sure how to describe it. I've been through a few natural disasters, like fires in San Diego, been in a few earthquakes, been to a few trade shows. I sat through the 2016 campaigns, which I don't know how to describe it. The crazy part was the first night of the storm. It was just powerful. It was like awe-inspiring. Horrible in terms of the destruction, but awe-inspiring. Like there were multiple concerts going on all around you. There was lightning everywhere. And of course, you know, thunder to follow. It was raining so hard that the front door of my brother's place, it was like standing behind a waterfall off of his roof. Not that brother, another brother, the other brother. I have several other brothers, lots of other brothers. And when they talk about me, I'm the other brother. No, not that one, the other brother. It was interesting until it came time for me to go home. Driving through the neighborhoods was crazy because up on the grass next to this totally flooded road, you'd see like a minivan parked, marooned on the side of the road because the water was already too deep and people had to find another way to get out. That felt weird because I was actually going in. The scary part to me about driving in a flood was you never know if there's a drop-off coming up imminently. You know, because you don't pay that much attention to the topography of the road. The next intersection could be 2 or 3 feet deeper than the one you just came through. And I don't pay attention to that sort of thing. The water just seems to get higher and higher and higher. It's come up to the point that it's above the bottom seals on the doors. It's basically up to like my mid-thigh, which is really deep water. And I'm like, oh, I hope I actually make it. Another surprising thing about it was the street was, it was completely like a river. It was a river. That doesn't sound surprising at all. A really tame, slow-flowing river, at least where I was. But it was a river. As the rain came down, obviously the water level would come up and up, and then it would stop raining for a little while, and the drainage here is pretty good, so the river would go away. They have these greenways that are designed to take up all that extra water whenever there's flooding or really serious rain happening. And how much your street floods depends very largely on what your greenway looks like, or the ones that are nearest to you. Because if they're already all full up, then it just backs right up into the streets. But if your greenway's doing okay, then there'll be a lot of variability. It'll be like flood waters one minute, and the next minute it'll be like dry, like it had just rained a little bit. You know, not really dry, you know what I mean. While the storm was really going, while the flooding was really happening, we all kind of gathered together for safety and just for fun, you know. It's a disaster, you might as well be having fun. All of our phones would go off simultaneously with all these warnings. Look out, there's a tornado coming your way. You could try to leave, but there's also flooding, so you're not going anywhere. There's been a lot of criticism about the ruling class, the government of Texas and of Houston, for not warning more people and getting them out on the road. But when you look at the actual facts of the case, when you look at the reality of the situation, if they'd told people to evacuate en masse, there would have been a whole lot more fatalities. Because the minute you try to go somewhere in a flood, that's when you're at most risk. You're in your car, you're on basically on a giant floodplain that is a highway. Asphalt doesn't really absorb water well, so the water has nowhere to go. Flooding, if it happens, is going to be really, really severe. For many people, myself included, sitting around was definitely the best idea. Since the storm has passed, some friends and family members and I have gone out to places that were hit really hard. The crazy part is we went into some of these neighborhoods, and from the outside, these houses look just fine. You'd look at them and say, nothing really even happened here. Because you don't really see the water level or the water damage done from the outside. At least I didn't see it. We'd walk in though, and the minute you walk in, you see where the watermark was. And the worst part, honestly, is the smell. Because it's not like clean water. Sometimes it has sewage in it, sometimes it just is just dirt and disgusting, but basically you walk in and the smell is horrible. These houses are just in a shambles. You have to throw a bunch of stuff away, you have to pull stuff out in the street. One place where we were working, if you went outside, the entire neighborhood was just covered with trash and trucks. And when I say the entire neighborhood, I mean the curbs of the entire neighborhood were covered with trash and trucks. How often do you see just trash and trucks everywhere? Howdy, y'all. The saddest part wasn't seeing all the stuff they had to throw out, although that was pretty sad too when you consider like it's all going to a landfill. The stuff that they bought from IKEA or Costco, or I don't know if you're well off, some store for rich people. I don't know the names of any rich people stores. Well, anyway, the sadder part to me was seeing people's, you know, photo albums and stuff that they really cared about, and that just hurts because there's a lot of that sort of stuff you can never replace. And it's going to a landfill too, so it's doubly sad. Even in the midst of wild destruction and total chaos, there are funny stories. So we were helping at this one house where the family had actually gone up into the attic to kind of escape the floodwaters. They didn't know how long it would be. That sounds really crazy, and they tell you not to do it, but it's not a dumb idea if you have an axe or some way to like cut through the roof in case you need to be rescued from the roof. You don't know if it's gonna be hours or even days before somebody comes in a boat to pick you up if you're in one of these heavily flooded areas. So there's some wisdom to wanting to keep you and your small children out of the elements. Now, if you can't burrow out of your roof, then it's a horrible idea because if the water keeps coming up, you're gonna drown. So I'm not making any recommendations. You do what you want to do when your house is like got 6 feet of water in it. But this family decided to go up and be in the attic for a little while they waited to see if the water would go down. And father had a really nice bucket. I don't know what that means, a really nice bucket, but he had one. So they end up using this bucket as like a makeshift outhouse because you don't really want to leave like filth laying around. He took it down out of the attic with them when the floodwaters receded and he left it out by the curb. There are certain things that sell out really quickly in a disaster situation. Like even yesterday, I mean, the disaster is, as far as the flooding happening is over, it's cleanup time now. But there was still no bread on any of the store shelves. None. And I mean none. And most of the flour was gone too. Why would you choose bread? Because, you know, in a really moist, humid environment, it's gonna go bad really quickly. It's not particularly waterproof. There was tons of canned goods. Why aren't people buying canned goods? Anyway, that was a total tangent. Back to the story with the bucket. So he takes the bucket, he puts it out by the curb. Buckets are another thing that I think sell out very quickly in disaster situations. Some guy comes along in a truck and peels around and comes by and grabs the bucket and runs off with it. He stole a bucket full of human filth, which is pretty funny. If someone's gonna steal something from you, it might as well be like your miniature outhouse. The bucket story leads to talking about shortages. And there are a lot of people out there who really want to help. People are just loading up, you know, the U-Haul trailers and bringing out stuff to help people in Texas. The problem is most of that stuff isn't going to be useful. And I know that sounds really negative, but it's actually true. Unless you know what to bring or you have something you're bringing to someone very specifically, I would say the thing that most people that we saw needed was drywall and insulation. I mean, they don't really need food and donated clothes. There seems to be enough of that, unless it's bread, in which case, bring bread. Send all your bread. Just kidding, don't do that. It's mostly gonna be rebuilding supplies from this point. They talk about the disaster after the disaster, and that's mostly caused by people who genuinely, out of the goodness of their heart, want to help and end up just creating, like, disaster part 2. So, don't do that. I also read several articles about the Red Cross, and they're taking some heat for really not doing a great job at helping in real disasters, like in Haiti or Katrina, or really, from the way the articles all sound, they really don't help ever. I don't know if it's all true. I'll leave it to you to do the research on this one. But mostly because I'm gonna end up mucking out some more houses later today or tomorrow, because that's fun. It actually is. You meet all kinds of interesting people. And it is a bit surreal because you walk into someone's house who you've never met before, and with their permission, of course, you start tearing it apart. Which is a little odd. You start throwing away their precious things, you start tearing their walls up and throwing out their furniture, and it's a little weird, and they're grateful, but it's sad and just surreal. You're dragging out this stuff, you're like, oh, that's kind of a nice couch. I mean, you smell it and you go, oh, that's not a nice couch. But you're dragging out this kind of a nice couch and you're throwing it out in the street, and I mean, it's just trash from that point out. I put a list of a couple of links, ways that you might be able to help, or things that you can do if you're interested in helping the people who were hardest hit by the storm. I keep talking about crazy things, but there are so many of them. And another crazy thing is that there's a curfew. Like, all the stores are closing at like 7 or 8 o'clock at night because people only steal things at night. I mean, most people. Not everybody, obviously. Some people steal things during the daytime. The government has said, no staying out late. And I actually went jogging home at about 11 o'clock one night, and they're like, if the cops catch you, they're gonna question you about it. I'm like, I'm wearing like jogging clothes. Like, what kind of nefarious scheme could I have? I'm not gonna run inside somebody's house and steal their television because I'm wearing jogging clothes and I don't have anywhere to put a television. I don't jog in cargo shorts. unless I have to carry a television or something. You know those inflatable chairs? I wanted to go riding down the street river as it was filling up. How awesome is that? You rode your little pool chair in the flood of the century, of the last millennium. I would be a Darwin Award winner. I would have been. I could have been. It would have been fun, honestly. And it would have been a great story to tell. If I'd felt sure that I would have made it out alive, I definitely would have done it.